Welcome back to the Unit 1 review for the test. Today we're going to cover questions 7 and 8. Solve for the equation showing each step. Provide an explanation for each step. And notice I've given you an outline or provided you an outline since this is the review. If we're showing each step, we need to make sure we're using the inverse operation. Usually we've formed it in the terms of a question. Can I? Followed by what can I do? Inverse operations, just as a reminder, the opposite of addition, you guessed it, is subtraction, and the opposite of multiplication is division. Those are inverses of each other because they're opposites and undo each other when solving for the equation. The equation we were given is 5x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 6 equals 12. So the first explanation is always the given, just the original question. Step number 2 says distribute. And what number are we distributing? You guessed it, the 3 outside the parentheses to the x and the negative 6 inside the parentheses. When we distribute, don't forget, we use multiplication. So it follows all the rules of multiplication. So positive 3 times x becomes 3x. The number and letter go together. Positive 3 times negative 6 becomes negative 18. Then the next step we always ask is, can I combine like terms? Remember, like terms are either numbers or variables, the same variable, on the same side of the equation. And in this case, 5x and 3x are on the left-hand side of the equation. 5x plus 3x becomes 8x. But we're trying to isolate x, or solve for x. So we need to get x by itself. Notice, I'll add 18 to both sides because adding 18 is the inverse of subtracting 18. Negative 18 and positive 18 cancel each other out. Drop down the 8x because 8 times x will now equal, you guessed it, 30. My next step is to get rid of the 8. Since there's multiplication between any number and variable, I'll have to use division. That's the inverse. I divide both sides by the same number to keep them equal. That's the property of equality. Anything I do to the left side of the equation, I must also do to the right side. So I divide by 8 to both sides, and my last step will be to check and see if I can simplify to get the final answer. Just remember, simplify, in this case, we're dividing the numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor of 2. So we end up with 15/14. If you'd like to, you could change it to the mixed number 3 3/4 or 3 3/4, because 4 goes into 15 3 times with a remainder of 3. Or you can put it in your calculator and write it as a decimal. X equals 3.75 or 3 75/100. Question number 8 says solve the inequality. The only thing that's different about an inequality and an equation is that this inequality, the solution will be on a number line and there'll be some shading involved, since there'll be more than one possible answer. So we're going to model our solution on the number line after we've solved. Again, we'll still have to use the inverse operation. When we graph, we'll graph either an open circle or a closed circle based upon the inequality we've been given. Less than, greater than, and not equal to is an open circle or an unshaded circle. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and equal to are all closed circles or shaded in. Isolating x, we have to get rid of the plus 3. Opposite of plus 3 is minus 3. So we subtract 3 from both sides. The minus 3 and the plus 3 cancel each other out because they're inverses. 7 minus 3 is 4, and we drop down the sign. Remember, we only flip the sign on the inequality if we multiply or divide by a negative. Looking at the question and my table, notice I have to use a shaded circle. Shaded circle goes on the solution of 4, and everything to the left will be shaded on the number line. Notice the left looks just like a less than symbol.